Well, hello and most welcome back to Gmodism. We are here for some empirical testing, and as you probably saw by the thumbnails, we're going to do more pneumatics, pneumatic missiles. And what's that even? Well, pneumatics, that's something that has to do with air pressure. And these things provide air pressure that gives missiles launch speed. Now, we can use this launch speed to give the missiles some damage that will be able to deal damage to a said target using its velocity. So the idea of this little testing session is to test different sorts of missiles that do not utilize thrusters. Now, in real life, there are some pneumatic systems, of course. They're like this thing, having some pressurized air or something like that to help launch missiles out of tubes. That is a real thing that is used to launch missiles with, so that they will get ejected and then, well, can begin their thrusting speed without burning whatever they were attached on before. Pretty smart. On the other hand, pneumatic systems, in order to deal damage by the velocity of the shell, is of course very less common. I suppose perhaps some of the rubber cannons that law enforcement use against demonstrants at violent protests and stuff like that. That is probably pneumatic projectiles, so that would probably be the closest thing. Now, in real life, pneumatic systems isn't the best way to deal a lot of damage. So it's usually not very used. It's more like used to launch things that will do something else. In this case, we'll try to use the velocity of the projectile to actually deal the damage. So as you can see here we have a large missile, and we can remove this. We can add it to only be reinforced bodies like this. This is literally a rod of reinforced bodies. If we now click T and launch this system, you can see that it did this type of damage, just like that. Insane. Insane. It did this damage with just, I accidentally repaired some, but only by its own velocity. So basically, I want to find out a little bit what type of loadout, what type of weapon, whatever should we have on our pneumatic system. So here you can see, for example, we have surrounded this large launcher with ejectors on all sides. So when we're doing this, when we don't have any thrusters, we need to make sure we have ejectors on all sides. Of course we can, I did my little connection panel here. Here we have a huge one. So we can actually try it with only reinforced bodies for all of them. And the huge one should be pretty powerful. Imagine shooting this at the face of an enemy. Of course, the problem with a pneumatic system like this is that it will have a set launch speed and then it will deaccelerate, just like a cram cannon or something like that. You can see 210 meters per second. It's kind of almost as fast as a cram shell if you got some suppressors, if you got this flash suppressor barrel on it. It's not quite that slow then. Maybe if you have some recoil absorbers and suppressors. Anyways, with a huge missile, if we have ejectors on all sides, we can get it up to 210 meters per second. Right now we only have reinforced bodies, and that basically means that the damage of the projectile is directly proportionate to the speed. So it's basically the simple equation, whatever that's now called. Speed times weight equals the energy. So here we had a little medium one, however with a thumper head, and that's of course the proper tip we should have on it. So if we can see here, we can make it load again, and there we go. And they're so fast, by the way. If we slow down time and fast that and shoot them anyways, it's like they're instantly teleported here. It's pretty crazy. Now, I'm not 100% sure how we're going to set these up. Either, we can see here, we get a... I wonder if they will be slower if we add fins. We might need to have some fins. I don't think the fins will slow it down. So we can have some slight guidance, having some fins and then having some type of guidance, and that could probably be helpful. Anyways, that stuff we will test later. We will, as said, see what's the effective range of this thing actually. Okay, so only reinforced bodies for this thing. Now the small one is connected. So this is basically a sort of very inefficient sandblaster, I believe. Now, small missiles in general are not the best to use at a setup like this. And I do suspect that the length of the missile will provide larger damage. But we will of course test this out, how big of a deal it really is. You can see we can go through that heavy armor thing again, and again it's just adding to kinetic damage on top of it. So I'm not sure, this should be a similar damage type like pack, except it could be shot down by lamps and stuff, but it has pretty high health, especially the larger ones. You can see they're like super quick. And the small missile launcher has some extra thing. It like gets a particular launch speed. If we just add the small one here, we can see the launch speed is 40 per second. If we compare that to a medium launcher like this, whoops, it has a launch speed of 0. So the small launcher has some free type of, it has some kind of built-in ejectors on it. So when we add full ejectors to the small one, it actually reaches up to 300 meters per second. So this is the same speed as the cramshells actually, so it's pretty cool. This one goes up to 200, 210 and 200. If we remove one here, all right. What about this then? Okay. Weird. In any case, now I almost kind of assume that kinetic damage is the thing we want to deal. So for the nose, we should probably go with a thumper head like this. This looks intimidating, does it not? Bam! It should then go a little bit quicker actually. I think seems that the launch speed isn't really affected. I wonder if it even matters. Okay, reinforced warhead body. Does the stats even change here? I wonder if it only matters, increases. It doesn't seem to matter if we have a thumper head or not. I think that the speed of the missile only matters if we have a thruster on here. So for example, look here. Now, when we have a short-range thruster, for some reason, our launch speed increased to 310 meters per second. So this is something I discovered earlier when we tested some CIVS missiles, that the mere presence of a short-range thruster or other thruster, but especially the short-range thruster, they give the most, does it so that the launch speed is magically increased. So just having a short-range thruster on here, and do note, we do not have any fuel. It doesn't provide thrust itself. But that it's present makes it so that the launch speed is increased. Really weird. So if we have a reinforced warhead body, let's see here. Max speed. Does it change if we change it to a thumper head? And it does change a little bit there. But the launch speed is still the same, so I wonder if the missile is actually, like, thing is, if we had fuel, the thumper head would help us to have an aerodynamic head, and that would help us with acceleration. But since we are having a de-acceleration system, having a head that's aerodynamical should of course help. Like in theory, it should actually provide a lot having an aerodynamic head, especially when we're dealing with only de-acceleration. But I think that perhaps the from the depth coding has kind of missed this feature. So I think that the thumper head only matters for acceleration and not de-acceleration. That basically means, in our case, I don't think it actually matters if we have a flat rod as a head or if we have a thumper head here, because the type of damage it deals should be the same. But this is of course up for testing. Very interesting though. Here we can see 200 meters per second. If we add a short-range thruster, it's 300 meters per second. Yeah, so I guess this should greatly improve the damage we deal. If we do like this, we can do a quick comparison actually. So now we have this. And of course, if we have another reinforced body, we have a heavier missile. So here you can see health. If I add this, it goes up a lot. That basically means it's heavier. And you can see impact damage per meters second. Ooh, interesting. We can actually do a calculation here. Wait a second. Alright, so basically 740 meters per second. This is like the impact damage per meters per second. So 740, right? Times 300. So then we get up to 222,000 damage. If we, however, change this to a reinforced body, we do have instead 840 times, but in this case it's only to 200. So according to the calculation, not having a thruster gives us a damage of 168,000, and having a thruster gives us a total damage of 222,000. So if we just check this, that's how much damage that did. If we go back here, change this to a short-range thruster, and again, no fuel. See if it's reloaded. Wait a second. And there we go. So, I'm gonna remember this. I'm gonna remove, repair all, and fire. I think it deals more damage, doesn't it? It's a little bit broader here. Okay, test again. And reloaded. Trying to remember the damage pattern here. Now, there were some variability. Or is it the same? It kind of looks like the same. We'll need to do a proper test here, I think. We'll need to test a little bit more carefully. Maybe if we stack blocks a little bit more in row or something like that. Alright, we'll begin with only reinforced bodies then. And our new testing subject is just 4x4 metal. So it reaches us this far. Put a little marker down there. We're going to try again. Same damage pattern and everything. Okay, very good. Change to a short-range thruster back here, which means we have a higher damage. Quite a bit actually. And there it is, reloaded and everything. Ooh! It ain't much, but it's a few blocks more. Alright, we'll test it again. Just gotta wait for 15 seconds. Alright, there we go. Same damage pattern. Alright then. Then we can conclude that according to the results, having a short-range thruster on here, if the calculation, impact damage per meter per second, is higher, this data that the missile shows in the stats is true. Sometimes, to be quite honest, it's not always certain that the in-game data is completely right. Most oftenly it is, but sometimes things aren't working as they should work, and that's why we want to test things with some empirical tests. Because if we don't, well, we don't know what's gonna happen. So we know the damage pattern of this setup here. I'm thinking, let's try and see what a thumper head can do. Does it behave differently? Isn't that the exact same damage pattern? I think it might be. It's where we marked it at least. And now we're gonna try the same, but with no thruster, only reinforced bodies, to just make sure that there are no flukes in the system. And it reaches here where it should reach. Okay. So then we can basically have short-range thruster there. It seems that my theory is right, that the aerodynamic shape of your missile only really matters if you are having a system that... it only matters if you're having a system that's... what was I going to say? Yeah, it's accelerating. Yeah, there we see, we reached that same line there. Yeah, so my theory is probably correct then. Basically, having aerodynamic missiles only matters in from the depth if you have an accelerating system. If your system is deaccelerating, it doesn't care about having a flat front. It doesn't change anything here. It changes the max speed, it says, but of course we're not accelerating, so that's completely different. If, however, we have some type of, let's say, remote guidance on here, then we get some internal... no, we don't. Okay, let's have APN guidance. We get some internal space, and it can be used for fuel or something like this. Then we could have some acceleration. And then, of course, it should matter. So let's just test that out a little bit quickly. See if we have a flat head versus a thumper head when we have an accelerating system. Now, this distance is so short, I'm not sure it will actually matter. Now we can see it reached down there, 2 blocks in. So of course a little bit more damage because it was actually able to accelerate a little bit. Now, doing a pneumatic system is of course not the best idea. You can heavily rely on a pneumatic system and have like tiny fuel. So in this APN guidance we have space for, well, 2.8 seconds of thrust, and that's great. That is better. That is better than what we're doing here. The thing with having a pneumatic system, it's a challenge and it's fun. If you want a good missile that's dealing the most amount of thumb damage you can, well then you should have short-range thrusters and aerodynamic systems, and yes, you should have the pneumatic ejectors on there to get extra speed, but yeah. Isn't that the same? Huh. Well, according to this, the max speed, you can see 416 versus 381, so it's not a huge difference. And this is not 300 meters, this is 272, so minus something, maybe 200 meters or something like that. So I suppose there is probably a difference, but man, we can't really see it, can we? Let's just prepare again, see. Yeah, same. Well, when we're doing some empirical tests, we really need to close off the scope of what we're actually doing. So we're going to leave this open. Maybe aerodynamics on missiles doesn't matter as much as we thought, even though they should matter a bit. But for our case, very short range, and we're not going to have fuel on our designs. We are going to rely only on a pneumatic system with missiles, ejectors and stuff like that. And these only work at shorter distances because they are a deaccelerating missile. They are a projectile, just like cram cannons will deaccelerate a bit. So we thus have to conclude that having a aerodynamic tip does not matter. One thing I do want to try is what if we have an active radar seeker on here? So if we had some, you know, had some type of light guidance. We can see the damage went down a little bit. But of course, we could increase hit rate if we have fins too. But you can see it still deals decent damage. It didn't completely handicap it. However, if we have some fins on here too, we will get some type of guidance. But man, I don't expect this is gonna be worth it. I think most likely, I think we want these pneumatic missiles to be dumb. But we have the option to make them guided. That's inside our scope. There we go. It's reloaded. Alright, so if we have some fins on there too, we have really decreased the damage a little bit, so we're back to 50k. Yeah, that's not great, but it's decent still. You can see it removes a good portion of that metal there. So I thought we should look a little bit about the sizes we can do for missiles. This is of course the 1 unit, the smallest one we can have. So I thought it would be pretty interesting if we just fire this here. You can see it deals a pretty small little damage area. However, it now has a reload time of merely 10 seconds. So it's not fast in any mean, but I mean, what does this component cost, by the way? Like, this is something we need to keep in mind. So 2,400 each of this, so plus 400, and per ejector thing 800. Alright, we're over 3,000, that's for sure, 3.5 or something. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how this compares to an APS of this size, but I think it might actually be comparable. This isn't such a bad system. I did some tiny calculations, and if we have 2 units like this, according to the calculations, impact damage per meter squared times the speed, it is not worth it in this case to add a short-range thruster. So if we do this setup, we only need 2 reinforced bodies. If we do it like this, we have a, we have a damage of a little bit more. One thing I do want to check out, however, is basically, so the damage between the last one is basically 42,000, and we divide that by 10, so we kind of know how much damage it is per, per second, and then we get 4,200, right? If we do it like this, as said, we already know it's not really worth it. We get 210 times, and the slower speed of 200 meters per second. Oh, okay. Now I think I missed a little bit here, because this one should of course be, let's see here, it's 105 times, it's 200 as well, divided by 10. Okay, so then we get, so with one block we have a DPS of 2,100, and with this thing, let's see the reload time, it is 14.1. So divided by 14.1, we get, oh, 2,978. So having 2 modules have a higher DPS. I wonder if that's linear. Don't see much difference, but we can see there. So 15 seconds is pretty neat. I don't know how fast we'd like this to be actually. I'm kind of thinking that we don't want it to be too slow. But if we, for example, for the fun of it, make a real large thing like this, we already know that a short-range thruster will be good to have here. But if we take this task 2,100 and we take that times 200, and we're gonna divide this by 44.7, and we find we have a DPS of 9,000. So the bigger it is, the bigger the DPS is. And of course we could put this into relation of how much the weapon costs. But basically, the larger the projectile, the more damage per second, which makes a lot of sense. Alright. If we had this thing, however, man, I think it's gonna... Whoops. It's gonna delete pretty much big stuff here. Alright then. So, we fire this rod here and we can see it deals pretty much damage. But since this thump damage, I do kind of feel like a lot of the damage is wasted when we have a really long thing like this. So we probably need to find the correct size for this. Let's see, we make a pretty long one, and if we add a short-range thruster here, we should really like super increase the amount of the amount of effective damage we do, since it's now this times 300, so like at least 50% better than it would be without it. Yeah, we can see it deals some decent damage there. One thing we also want to try is of course the different like sizes. So we'll need to make sure we understand what's practical. And this is 41 seconds. I feel that's a little bit too long. I think we want a pretty short reload time, maybe 20 seconds. So we're gonna do the calculations and see the damage. So 320 times 300 is more than 420 times 200, which means that even for this small size, having a short-range thruster on here is probably worth it. A thing that's pretty funny is that the lifetime of the missile is doubled if we don't have a thruster, and that's probably to make mines a little bit more viable. Well, in any case, this setup should be pretty nice. Oh yes! We can remove a big chunk of top armor using that. 20 seconds, I like the size of 20 seconds. Now, we have only tested the large ones, but I feel like the large ones will probably be really nice. Now, of course, it has to be bigger if we're gonna have it guided, but if we can have it 300 meters per second, I don't see a reason why we need it guided to. That we can only do if we have it larger. When it comes to the huge missiles, they are so large, yeah, I don't think we want to spend like these gantries on something like that, because each gantry costs 6,000. It's really premium for the huge ones. I'm gonna see here if we have a thumper head and explosives. Oh man, right, okay. We need to make sure here, when we do this, we need to make sure that warhead arming delay is basically turned off here. Alright. Here we should go. I'm gonna just compare it if we have only explosives. So let's try only explosives on this thing. What? It didn't have time to explode, did it? It's just so quick. It seems that the warhead arming delay doesn't matter. If we have a thumper head, I guess we can conclude it also doesn't have time to explode. So if this is the case, it means that it is not really... Yeah, it only deals some thump damage. It's not worth it. Wonder what happens if we have frag instead behind here. Well, it's reloaded. Wasn't this green before? It changed to some horrible yellow-ish color. Gold something. Anyways, I like the green. Now we had an explosion. Why did we have an explosion? Because now we have thumper heads. This is strange. Alright then. Well, I don't see any fragments, so I guess that's a no. In any case, the other option we have is to use a shaped charge and some high explosive warheads. And I'm kind of thinking having a pneumatic system to deliver rods that have a shaped charge is probably a really good idea. Because Wait, what? It would be in theory. Warhead arming delay. Man. This doesn't feel reliable, does it? Having these explosive parts on here just makes it sometimes not even that. No. I don't know if this is because it's another object or something, but I'm gonna try that out. I'm going to go and make a new blueprint. I'm gonna make a vehicle in thin air. And I'm going to add metal blocks on it. And I'm gonna okay, thank you. And let's see, I don't know if this is high enough, but it wasn't. Alright, let's try again. I made it a little bit taller and refilled materials. Excuse me? What? Oh, I think it's not far enough in this direction. Okay, we're gonna extend it by 2 meters here. Alright. Are we loaded? 3, 2, 1. Alright. Up to test. It teleports through it. It's like it actually spawns a far bit away. Alright. Like, if we risk to actually blow through stuff, man, I don't think we can trust this thing. I wanna try and see if I make a weird complex shape like this. Like, it should contact somewhere, shouldn't it? Can't penetrate through all of this. Yes, it can. Yes, sir, it goes straight through. Well, that's quite interesting. I just wanna see here. Alright, that rules out shaped charges. It's pretty risky then. Let's try another, make sure it's not only those. So if we had a... let's see here, shaped charge, some explosive and some reinforced bodies. Maybe that works. Okay. It teleports through it. Interesting. And this thing then, if we have... It's too close. It's too close. Yeah. It goes through it. Well then, in that case we know we can't really trust this damage type. It seems that... This makes me a little bit worried though. I want to see what happens if we have a thumper head instead. And have some reinforced bodies. Having explosives on there just seems to ruin everything. If we do that, it still goes through the thing that's the closest. Well. Repair all. This makes me a little bit like... I'm surprised. It's too close though. Or somehow it's... Somehow we have a friend or foe. No, we don't. Well done. So we can only conclude that the pneumatic system will or will not work if we're too close. So, yeah. But it seems that having shaped charges just doesn't get there in time. I'm gonna test once again here. Having some shaped charges. Disconnecting these other guys. And we did the thump damage, did we not? Yep, we did. Oh, thumper head, sorry. I must say that this huge missile actually doesn't load so slow. Didn't this deal less damage? It did, because now we have the shaped charge. Okay, good. Then we know that shaped charge is not an option. I thought it would be great to deliver a shaped charge using this, but we probably need to be further away and make it a guided system in that case. So that's some interesting testing results. We could possibly make a shaped charge pneumatic system, but for close range point blank damage, point blank damage, a pneumatic system will be a kinetic system. So that's really good to know. We're just gonna see the damage we can deal. If we got some reinforced warhead bodies like this, I just wanna see the math here. So 3,400 times how fast we are, 310, right? 310. Wow, that's over 1 million divided by 31.6. That's the reload speed. So we have a DPS of 33,300. That's a lot, of course. What does this look like? Bam. We can delete the outer part of many armor schemes. You can see here, this is heavy armor, man. And we can basically shred through it quite a bit. One thing I do wonder is, I don't think I want to have that, but theoretically, can we have some, EMP on here? Get some EMP. Warhead arming delay. Seems to be fine. Alright. Can we deliver EMP? Not on this range. We cannot deliver EMP on close range. Good to know. So, only kinetic. Now I was a little bit curious about the small missiles. Now these have a reload speed 20 seconds, but there are 4 of them. So, well, I guess that's fine. So what do we have here? We have an impact damage per second. We need to calculate this. 16.8. I'm gonna times 300 then. Alright. And compare that to, a impact damage of 15.8. Yeah, this is gonna be much better. Times, isn't it 400 now? That's like faster than a cram can be. Now we have 6,300, yeah. So if we do this, we want to have reinforced bodies and a short range thruster. But I am a little bit curious, will this actually deal some decent damage or not? Bam, bam, bam. You know, for stripping off stuff, that looks actually pretty decent. I wonder if we can make some type of buckshot system using this. That would be really cool, like a small missile buckshot system that just swarms the air with like kinetic rods. It's like some weird kind of APS weapon, and since this is so long, I bet we could put on fins and an active radar seeker and make them actually, we can actually check here. It shouldn't be that much worse. 13 point, what is it, 8 times 400 is, oh well, it's still better than the one without the short range thruster. That's cool. So if we had this, we could have, like, they're pretty fast. Yeah, I would definitely, that could be really cool. Think crush incoming planes, like really small planes. We could just crush with a swarm, like a buckshot of these, like semi-guided shotgun system. That's super cool. That's something I want to do. Now we have the medium system too, and short range thruster there gives us up to a speed of 300 meters per second. And if we just repair this a little bit, it actually deals decent damage, but I wonder why it blew up here. Why did you blow up? Reinforced body. Because we don't need a thumper head. It's like, it's not a bad thing, it's just the same. 22 seconds reload time. Yeah, I mean, medium missiles are like decent and everything, but I feel that's a little bit boring for this application. So it's probably decent, it's okay. Small missiles are, of course, the worst thing you can do kinetic missiles with, but it would be so fun with a buckshot system using this. So I think from this little testing session, what I am going to take with me is that we can do kinetic only pneumatic missiles using huge and large missiles. And we should do an experimental guided system using small missiles. Now I think we could do a guided system using large gantries too, but that will require a lot of battle testing to see what actually works. But definitely, we're gonna build an army of Gmodism, buckshot, small missile thing that just swarms incoming targets with that. We're gonna build a huge pneumatic kinetic rod, and we're going to build some large kinetic rods, or like small kinetic rods that actually reload pretty quickly, or possibly a longer guided thing like this. So I think that's some really helpful testing session. I'm gonna connect this up and just see what a will do. Bam. Now it feels like, oh yeah, there it comes. I have a staggered fire mounted on. I just want to test, I just want to fix a little small system here, just to test. Of course, if we're gonna do this, we need to have a 2-axis turret or a 1-axis turret with a 2-axis turret on to make sure that we can aim towards the enemy. Like this is like a directional weapon. This is like if we made a laser or something, or more like it like a cram cannon with no barrels that can make it move side to side, just straight fire. A tiny little intersection, or I don't know, insert into the video I just finished recording. I just wanted to show you this. So basically, when we removed the target we have, we can actually see the missiles launch. So for some reason, they're not visible when they know exactly where they're going to hit. But now, you can see it's flying here. And of course, I turned it down to slow motion like that. We're going to do like this, connect these up, and do it like full speed. And you can see, yep, they're out there. And so here we can kind of see the effective range. They probably de-accelerated too much after like 400 meters. So of course, if this wasn't quite obvious, they are de-accelerating. Pneumatic systems, pneumatic missiles like this is gonna be a short-range weapon. Like after here, it's useless. So definitely under 1,000 meters in any scenario if you don't have them powered. And if I'm going to be quite honest, if you want to do a good system, you want them powered, because pneumatics is of course not the best way to go. The only reason why we can have this is that we can have them, you know, not use fuel. And if we do that, we can make them a little bit like reloading faster. So here we have 20 seconds, of course. If we had a fuel tank and want to have the same damage and stuff like that, we of course need to make it a little bit larger, and when we make it larger, the reload time goes up. But it's worth it. Missiles, it's worth it to have thrusters. Pneumatic system is fun, but it is a niche use. It's not made to be good, it's made to be fun. I just wanted to tell you that if you want to see the missiles fly, remove your target if the target is decently close, and you will be able to see them fly. So that's that. Yeah, well, anyways, I'm gonna set this up and we're just gonna see what the buckshot system could do, possibly. Alright, there we have it. By the way, this is my missile testing platform. I'm gonna upload it, I'm gonna update the Army of GMODISM's commissioned officers file, so everyone who is supporting me on Patreon that are helping very much have access to my blueprints, prefabs, you know, testing stations, sub-objects, turrets, everything. So I'm going to put that in an update, and if you want to support the channel, you can best do so by becoming a commissioned officer in the Army of GMODISM. We're gonna remove the staggered fire and test this, but before that I just want to give a huge thanks to Commander Ike the Boater, Commander Eugene, Lieutenants Asteria powered by Greed, Tyler Russ, LCG Canyon, Vincent Veritas. Thanks a lot for supporting the channel, it helps me very much and makes it so that I can make more content more often, and that I eventually, hopefully, will not be needing to do some other stuff. Well, in any case, up to test. Wow! You know, this is probably not a cheap system, but and small missiles is definitely not anything we want in general. But man, swarm them like this, and they're so fast we can't even stop time to make them like show, and they're already reloaded. Let's see if we can make it slower here. And you can see I tried to stop the time here, but they're already disappeared. They're already gone. They already reached the target. It's so crazy. They basically don't have any time to spawn in game. You can see there. Well, it works pretty cool. I don't know. I think this could be a thing. And remember, these are actually guided. Guided buckshot. That's so stupid and so fun. And are they gonna reload again? I think they are pretty soon. In any case, if you want to support the channel by getting some merch, there is a sale until 17th bam, of April. And that sale is because the merch provider, Teespring, they are offering a 25% discount on them. If I offer that, there will be nothing left for me almost. But when they do it, well, that's good for everyone. So please check out my merch. If you haven't, there may be something that you actually like in there. So, you know, worth to check it out. I designed everything myself, and some of the designs, like my 67mm shell and my blueprint mousepad, is stuff I'm pretty happy about. So if you're not interested to buy, I would love you to just look at them and tell me what you think about my designs. Did I do a bad job or did I do a good job? Because no one ever actually told me this. I just made them in the autumn, but I didn't promote them very much, did I? In any case, hope you enjoyed this little video. I will continue to go and build a buckshot system like this to combat incoming aircraft and stuff. I'm going to continue with making a guided or unguided large missile, pneumatic damage dealer, and probably a huge damage dealer, while huge missiles usually isn't worth it. But they're very fun. And you know what? If we make a kinetic pneumatic missile system, enemies like lambs and stuff will try to combat it, but it will have so much health they are most likely not able to take it out, so that's pretty funny. In any case, huge thanks to all of you who are watching the channel. Without you, of course, this would not be a channel. And remember to stay tuned into Twitch, because sometimes, believe it or not, I actually stream. I'll see you next time. This is your host, Gmodism, pneumatically signing out.